My task here is to provide a bit of an introduction, a bit of an overview of the mobile market as a whole. The way that I've decided to do that is to provide a general market overview, the size of the market, some of the dynamics within it, and then I thought I'd dip into the different components and participants in the overall mobile market, looking a bit at the customer perspective, what they're trying to achieve and what the trends are there, looking a little at the operator perspectives, the developers' perspectives, and finally looking at brands and corporates. So to start off with, in terms of a market overview, yeah, the smartphone environment is growing quickly. I mean, it's developing quickly, as has been mentioned, in terms of Android and iPhone OS. But in terms of number of devices, it's growing incredibly quickly. We think there's going to be something like 1.7 billion smartphones in the world by the end of 2015. Top right, some penetration figures there. Clearly, penetration in the developed markets such as North America, Western Europe, and developed Asia Pacific is far higher than in the developing markets. But looking back to the top left, you can see that the main of the growth, or a lot of the growth, is actually driven by emerging Asia Pacific. That's because there are just so many people there. So a lot of these territories which will be seeing lower penetration of smartphones will actually be driving a lot of the absolute growth in smartphones in use worldwide. Another trend here is the swing towards more residential use. I mean, initially, in the early days, smartphones were far more of a business thing. They're becoming far more of a residential thing. And the other thing, bottom right, is a forecast of OS. You've got to take these things with slight pinch of salt here. I can see some shaking heads in the audience. That's fine. But one of the, probably what was generating the shaking of the head was the way that Symbian holds up so well. The reason for that is the penetration and profile of usage in the developing markets. The developing markets, if you're in Indonesia, in a village in the remote sticks of Indonesia, you're unlikely to be going out and buying an iPhone. You are aspiring to buy a Nokia smartphone. So there's an awful lot of market and market share globally that Symbian and Nokia will be getting because of the developing markets, and people just can't buy their way out of the fragmentation problem, which is something we'll be talking about later. Android does well because it's much more scalable. Apple stays smaller because primarily it's an opportunity in the developed markets. And not only that, but there's a language orbit aspect to the iPhone and also Android as well, which is the predominance of English language content. If you look at how many applications there are for the iPhone written in French or Italian, it's far, far less than there are English language applications. You don't have that pull. So, I mean, if you look at in Italy, at the moment, for instance, Nokia, Symbian have a 75% market share of smartphones. So there's some interesting dynamics behind there. So, anyhow, I'll leave that and move on. Next, these are some forecasts we put together about usage of mobile contents within Europe. This is just Europe, so developed markets here. A couple of trends worth highlighting. This is browsing and data access. So this is the £10 a month for all the data you can eat, which will be per meg charging by the time we get over here. But the point is, the actual paid-for content and applications are growing far more slowly than the data access. And the reason is, it's unsurprising that a lot of the things that previously you would pay for and pay for as applications, get to be available free on the web. This is what's happened in the fixed world. It's what's happening in the mobile world. So paid for mobile content applications is growing, but at a far slower rate than just data access. That reflects itself also in the profile of spend on the right-hand side. The two categories which are really dropping as a proportion of spend are personalization and paid information. And that, personalization, why would you pay to download a wallpaper when you have a smartphone and you can surf the web and you can pull any photo you want and put it on your phone? There's just no need to do it. Paid information, again, it just gets superseded by the web and web access. Things like games where you actually want to play something on the handset, typically, rather than remotely in an internet and remote or cloud implementation, to use the buzzword. The revenues are going to grow faster. So, next, just looking within users at the moment, there's a heavy skew. This isn't going to surprise anyone, but there's a heavy skew towards younger users. I think that there are 18 to 34-year-olds have more than twice the propensity to use mobile media as those aged 55 plus. More than 50% more than the average propensity to use mobile media. The other thing is that the younger people, the younger age groups, tend to use more different types of mobile media. We surveyed, I think it's 6 different types of mobile media here. You can see here that the average 18 to 24-year-old uses just over one type of mobile media, and that's obviously slightly under 50% of the users using a little more than 2 each. And over here, they're using just slightly more than one type of mobile media in the older age groups. So there's a very different profile of usage by age at the moment in the market. It's very much a youth-dominated or a younger person-dominated market. It's the same. This is some primary research which we did, or the last slide was primary research we did as well. But this is specifically application stores. I thought there was a bit of an application store focus today. These are the figures we had on application stores. This is actually a survey which we ran at the very end of last year, and we're currently processing our survey for which we ran just a couple of weeks ago. So we're about to update these numbers. So it's probably a little higher now, but the picture is very clear. There's far more usage by younger age groups than older age groups. In terms of the penetration of mobile media service users, 12% of people who use mobile media services in age 55 plus age group use an application store. That's probably about all there is to say on that. What do people want out of applications? Just looking at the App Store, there's different profiles for the different application stores. BlackBerry is more of a premium proposition. Android is a cheaper or more predominantly free proposition. But there's an awful lot more downloading of free applications than there is of paid applications. So inverse, I think at this point the App Store is having 2/3 of the applications in it were paid for, but 3/4 were paid applications, but 3/4 of the downloads were free. Basically, people want an application store that's easy to find on the handset, easy to browse and search, and easy to make payments on. One thing that is interesting here is a number of operators that are launching idle screen clients or on-device portals to actually make that initial access to the application store really, really slick and easy, and bring it down to 1 or 0 clicks to get through to the content that you want. On to the consumer perspective on applications, and checking time. This is a background behind some analysis that we're currently running, and is much of the thinking behind our current consumer survey that we're running this year. But I think that when the majority of people, or majority of analysts certainly, look at mobile content and mobile applications and specific mobile propositions, it's quite a supply-side perspective. It's okay, we have mobile games are going to grow, more people are going to use them, they're going to spend more. It's quite supply-side. And what we've tried to do is to flip that round and to say, well, look, there's a bunch of applications here or things you can do with the phone which are really about filling time. So I get up, I normally go on a train into London, so I get up and I go on that train. I'm on that train for 25 minutes, and I have 25 minutes to waste. I'm looking to waste time. I could read the newspaper, I could watch mobile TV, I could play a game, and I could do all these things which is in the sort of filling time category. But essentially, I have a finite amount of time in a day that I want to waste by doing a range of things, one of which is consuming mobile content. There are other things over here which are saving time, so office software and mobile banking and so on, and those are things that you may potentially find time in order to save time. So that would actually drive growth of use of a mobile phone. But a lot of these things are actually competing for the same eyeballs. So we actually have to. So what we've actually done with our survey at the moment is we spun it round to look at shares of media consumption and how those change. But I just wanted to bring out that sort of aspect of competition of these different services for eyeballs, and that's how a consumer sees these things.